Mm. Very good. The account, not the shawarma. The shawarma is garbage. It's very good. It's delicious.
I am the dumbest person.
What
Are you
a
serious?
fucking...
Hold up, from the top. Hello and
damn,
welcome
sure.
to the Benzo Rehab
I
dungeon.
don't think we have to listen to this.
Yeah.
It is the
Yeah.
17th of June. Yeah, I know. Yep. My partner just came in and telling me I'm muted like an idiot.
That's awesome. The real producer around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta switch it so that when I hit the main button, it also unmutes me. But neither here nor
Try
there.
not being a fucking idiot.
I just got to do a little bit more programming on this thing. It is the 17th of June, 2022. This is episode 96, titled "Gotta Inflate Fast." Yeah. Fake the laughter this time, guys.
I already faked it once.
Yeah, I am your host, Michael Deebs, also running more controls than I probably should be allowed to run. I am joined by Danko Suvin, co-host, and purveyor of memes from the Instagram handle @DankDeluz. Also joined by John, the producer. Also he eats shawarma with pickled onions. Gotta establish that. Also joined by John the producer from the Instagram handle @Discopathic. Bully him into making memes.
Yeah. Show him pictures of everything, really.
I'd have to check my social media to get bullied.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Today is a very special day. Got a couple of shout outs to do. First and foremost, today is the birthday of the producer that ran into the room to tell me I'm muted, who is also my partner. So today is her birthday. Also, friend of the show and contributor to the show, Jay Lateral, also known as Sweet Jay. Today is her day of birth as well. So, birthday twinsies. Wish one of them a happy birthday because you probably have their social media account. And don't harass my girlfriend.
No.
Anyways, yeah. Oh, it sounded like you were trying to say something. Since Danko,
I'm in ecstasy. It's so delicious.
Yeah, that's great. Since Danko has a mouthful of what's presumably shawarma, not cum. John, how are you doing today?
It's hard to keep my food down watching Danko eat.
I know.
Yeah, but yeah, just good. Generally good, I guess.
Chill vibes o'clock.
Oh no, just not completely self-hating vibes, just
that's pretty good, I guess.
Just self not liking vibes, that's pretty good.
That's the key to life.
Yeah,
is to get away from just total self-loathing and get into this self kind of dislike-ish.
Yeah, I would take 3 days to return my text message feelings about myself.
Oh yeah.
That's the goal.
But you would text back.
Yeah, you would text back.
Yeah.
I haven't asked you how you are yet.
No, I'm not answering that.
Oh, okay, good
question.
Please.
In the last 3 days, in that last week, I've had multiple people send me a message back after I've texted them saying that literally took a month. Apparently, I'm texting people back a month after they send me a message because my brain is that broken, and I dislike them actively. If I took a month to text you back, it's because I dislike you.
Great. maybe give them some pointers.
Yes.
Like if you texted me more interesting things, I would respond earlier.
No, the goal, the way that I'm going to teach them a lesson for being so uppity.
Oh,
Hmm.
an interesting
Is-
choice of words.
Yeah.
Well, look it up. It's but is then I take 2 months to text them back a response
okay.
saying, "Oops." Yeah, what's the definition of uppity?
Self-important, arrogant.
Yeah, that explains my stupid fucking friends.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're doing so well. By the way, how are you
didn't
doing?
ask me.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was part of the joke. You didn't let me
Oh.
finish. Take a
sorry.
sip too.
I was trying to have organic conversation on this podcast.
That's
Not
not what we do here.
I wasn't waiting in line.
You both know
you
that I
put
feed you
a
a
gun to my
script, and
head.
if we don't hit certain parts of the script, I beat
Yeah.
you savagely after the
That's
show
true.
closes.
Oh yeah.
But that's why I ignore the script.
Wow, damn!
Yeah.
It's a fetish thing now. Anyways, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm feeling like 8.5% more dilute than I was before.
Is there a reason for that? Maybe.
I think I'm inflating.
Oh no. That is the subject of today's episode. However, we have some news items that I'd like to get
Fuck.
to first.
Hmm.
The first one
I can never
is
do the Segui.
y'all may remember the Surfside condominium collapse last year. It has taken until now for some laws to be passed surrounding that. And specifically in the state of Florida. So this isn't like a federal law or anything about like building codes or anything like that. This is just in Florida. John, if you could zoom in just a little bit so I can read that. Maybe I just need a bigger monitor or something.
I think you need new eyes.
Well, I am
Got
getting
him.
old.
Got him.
So lawmakers responded to the 2021 Surfside condominium collapse on Wednesday by passing a long-awaited proposal. This was actually last month that this happened, so it was like late last month. But still, it took them about a year to do anything about this. On Thursday, Governor Ron DeSantis wasted no time signing into the law. Lawmakers introduced a proposal Tuesday, and both chambers have passed unanimously. Blah blah blah. So go down a little bit more. A little bit more. Yeah, that's go down. Keep going down.
Oh, more.
There we go.
Up.
More. Come on, closer.
So basically what they did is they turned up the rate at which the milestone inspections happen. It's instead of like 40 years, now it's going to be 30 years. And if you're within a certain mileage from the coast, it's 25 years. And then the inspection records must be published online and shared with tenants. This is actually a misleading article because I follow a couple of people who have been pretty detailed about following this particular story on the side of like engineering sort of things. One of them is building integrity, and he noted when he was talking about this particular law that it is only people who own the condo that's being inspected. So if you own the condo you're living in, sure, yeah, you get the inspection report given to you. If you're renting the condo, you can access it, but you don't actually know when these inspections are happening or when the report is published or anything like that. So it's kind of like a little game of seek, little bit of a goose chase sort of situation where you have to track down a report that you don't even know whether or not it exists, because you don't often know like what the age of the building you're in is when you're renting an apartment. That's not like something that they like tell you a lot of
Here's the
times.
thing, Mike. You see, in a free market, the thing that ends up determining, who is successful is, competition, right?
Right.
And so competing, building management companies, competing landlords will simply publish the document saying that their building is going to kill people
Of course.
in order to, build that respect and that
Right.
trust.
Yeah, right. Because they're not like I mean they have the financial incentive to really just kind of let things fall over and let the insurance companies take care of it from there. And then also, they enrich themselves personally, and if their, a company that actually owns the building goes under because their building goes under, maybe even literally falls over and goes under, they can always just bankrupt the company and still be personally rich themselves. A lot of reasons why
limited liability, pal.
a lot of reasons why this doesn't really work. And then another problem with this is so go ahead and go to the next link. It's probably a good thing that they've increased the rate of these milestone inspections, but I think it's being forgotten, especially by the media reporting on this, that there was an inspection of the building that noted severe deficiencies with the building. I think it was 2018 is when they inspected it, and they had a bunch of problems with the building. Uh, it turns out the problems were deeper than they originally thought, but this initial report was supposed to be like the sort of catalyst for, hey, get your fucking building checked out because we think there's some problems here. And that exploratory work would have found probably the greater issues with the building had they reacted or responded to this inspection at all. A huge part of it is, a lot of these luxury condominiums, um, they've got like a housing board sort of thing, of people who own condos in them, or something like that, and maybe they had the money initially. The Champlain Towers, I believe, were built in the early '80s. All right, so maybe they had some money back in the early '80s to buy one of these things, but that doesn't mean that they necessarily have money now. And the cost of maintenance only increases with time, right? So, they don't really have millions of dollars to throw around in like engineering investigations and like these really in-depth works that need to be done in order to maintain a building. There's also a fiction about skyscrapers or buildings this large in general, which is that they're engineered to last for 1,000 years. In heavy quotation marks, is what a lot of people believe. Um, given that inspections are done on time and maintenance is done properly for those 1,000 years, these buildings should theoretically stand up for thousands of years. Um, this is a piece of engineering fiction. That's like so far removed from the actual case of things. And this isn't a building episode, but we could look at buildings like the one that we start off a lot of our episodes with, the Millennium Tower. They did all the engineering calculations to say, yeah, this building will stand for however fucking long, and it's already sinking into the ground way faster than their expectations. So engineers like to put things together, and I'm not shitting on every engineer or saying engineers are all bad, but a lot of times engineers will put things together, and we have to understand that engineers are going to fail a lot of times or not be right, or there's going to be some kind of economic constraint that keeps the building from being built properly, maintained properly, et cetera, et cetera.
So I'm gonna fact check you because I'm pretty sure that you agreed to a statement along the lines of all engineers should be shot or something like that.
There's a strong possibility I said that at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's SBS. It's like a version of ACAB. It's complicated.
But this again, I'm glad that they're increasing the rate of inspections. There's a lot of problems with this though that go just beyond or way beyond inspections. The original inspection was done in 2018 on this building that showed a bunch of problems that need to be looked into. The current, these kind of inspections and the work done to repair these issues can't just be done by your local handyman. You need a like really solid industrial grade contractor that has the equipment to do the shoring that's necessary when they need to take out supports and replace them, all sorts of like crazy stuff that you had to do.
It's also, I mean, even in the simpler version of it, is, you can tell your boyfriend to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And he might go to therapy even if he's a psychopath. But if a psychopath boyfriend goes to therapy, if he gets an inspection, as it were, it's his choice as to whether or not he's going to fucking do anything about it.
Sure.
I mean, even if you like fine him, still kind of up to him. And chances are he might see you yelling at him when he comes home drunk after killing 12 people. Cost of doing business,
And that's another problem with this law that they passed is that, it's Florida and it was signed by Ron DeSantis. So it's something he's agreeing to, which means that probably favors the owner in a lot of cases. Says, yeah, you got to do the inspection more often, but what does it really do to hold the owner accountable for following up on these
unless
issues?
That owner is Disney World.
Yeah, and it's only under the pretext. No.
It's
we kind of did. But it was like a brief sort of aside where we said it's kind of funny.
The state of Florida is going to lose so much fucking money over that. It's hilarious. It's so good.
Well, I mean,
the funniest fucking thing in the
there's
world.
a longer conversation we could have about the state of Florida in general.
Even just their interactions with Disney. We could spend 3 episodes on that. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so what's hilarious is that Florida is one of the few states that's like, and they're doing it for all the wrong reasons, and they're doing it in the wrong way, really. But they're really the only like state in America that's like fighting back against some corporate power in a real way, but only because they're mad about. Well, I mean, it's not that they're actually mad; they're just trying to make a culture issue out of Disney, including LGBTQ community members, right? So they're doing it for the wrong reasons, and they're gonna bankrupt themselves because of it. But also, I don't think DeSantis cares if he bankrupts his state because
of course not.
The entire project of the conservative branch of politics is
to bankrupt everything you can,
bankrupt your state, and then private industry takes over.
But no, never mind. I lost it. Anyway.
So obviously this law has a lot of flaws with it. It's not going to do very much to actually fix the issues that led to this tower collapse. Another point I wanted to make, and this is something that I'm writing about, and Eric, if you're listening, I love you, and I will eventually send you some of the writing over soon.
I've told him to contact you every day for days, for multiple days. At least 2.
He's being very kind to me then. Writing that I owe him as of like
I
6
told
months
you
ago.
to contact him.
Oh. That's
I'm
true.
calling you out in front of Eric, who watches everything we do, by the way.
Yeah.
He told me, he said, not only do I watch your podcast every time, but those funny little flashes of light you see when you're walking around your house, those aren't spikes in your blood pressure. Those aren't little phosphines caused by some kind of neurological deficiency caused by your drinking. Those are the camera lenses sitting in your trim and your
Man,
light.
he has seen some things.
He has. He told me.
But one of the things that I'm writing about includes this section on how building code is developed, and a lot of people think that the building that they're in, whether it be 1 story high or 70 stories high, they think that there's some kind of like unified code that tells the builders how to make it so that it'll stand under what the appropriate conditions or anything like that. But
No.
a lot of times, and this is especially more prevalent in buildings like the Champlain Towers or even the Twin Towers when they were still standing, a lot of this shit is just pure theory to begin with.
Yeah.
And the way that code is eventually developed out of them. Think about what was the tower in Britain that caught on fire? The
Grenfell.
Yeah.
Grenfell Tower. It takes a disaster like that. It takes a disaster like this for building code to be updated to include what is essentially just the specific conditions that this building suffered from. These buildings that are like super tall constructs, especially, it's all just kind of engineering guesswork. I mean, they've got some solid principles that they're working with, of course, but they're working at a scale that isn't really common. And it's not like we're all building the same skyscraper, right? All these skyscrapers have to have some kind of unique shape or angle in it, right? And a lot of that is all just bullshit. And you can do the engineering calcs, but the engineering calcs are only capturing what and they're not capturing things like whether or not the soil will actually support your building for the right amount of time, or whether or not the maintenance is done correctly. And we're talking about like, and another problem is, like the maintenance becomes so highly specialized in this, where again, you can't just hire, and this is not saying anything bad against, your average handyman or anything like that, but you need a team of like dedicated engineers, real no shit engineers, keeping these buildings up sometimes, and budget just isn't fucking there.
Yeah. And not to mention, there are codes. There's building codes, there's electrical codes, and then what is allowed outside of all these rules of us looking back, like I think for the electrical code, it's like 212 years old now.
Yeah,
is looking at all the fuck ups of basically engineers, but still the only people that are allowed to design things outside of the like electrical code, the National Electrical Code, for example. The only people who are allowed to design things outside of the parameters of that are engineers, the people who fucked up everything for the last like fucking 200 years.
Yeah.
And they're still
in like bio labs, two types of organism are really common to use in order to do experiments, especially around phenotypes and genetics, right? These are E. coli bacteria and fruit flies, right? And the reason that they're so commonly used is because they have extremely quick turnover in generations, right? They breed really quickly. The old generation dies off, a new one comes in over and over and over again. Yeast is another example. And that is how they evolve and adjust in order to fill certain niches and parameters, is that they have new iterations which occur very, very quickly in succession. When you have a method of determining whether or not something's broken or not, like genetics is, and your way of making these determinations relies on a cycle of 25 to 40 fucking years you're not going to adapt anything quickly enough or fix anything quickly enough to stop horrible shit from happening.
Yep.
So, you know,
and that's kind of my final point on this is, you know, we can institute new laws and new building codes and stuff like that. Again, going back to the piece that I've been working on, 9/11 brought about a bunch of new building codes, because there's a pretty strong possibility that some of the corridors a bit wider, were some reinforcements made here and there, were some different materials used, that a lot more lives could have been saved that day. That's all well and good that we now have these new building codes, but how do you apply a wider corridor retroactively to an older building where you can't extend the corridor anymore because it's just the building is already there, right? You know,
Yeah.
you can't make the corridor wider in a brick building without breaking the bricks now, and like you have to build more out to the side. You can't do that. So you grandfather in all these old buildings that are essentially just the same dangerous death traps they've always been, but now they're legally grandfathered in.
Oh yeah,
I have
was this building built in the 80s?
Yeah, it was built in like 1987 or something like that.
So another thing that people don't realize is that there aren't a whole lot of federal federal regulations on these things. Like there are federal rule books that are adopted by states and localities if they want to, technically. And in the 80s, at least here in Texas, from what I understand, Texas just like didn't put any money into any fucking state building or electrical inspectors. So like buildings that were built in the 80s are just a crapshoot of whether or not, or houses and buildings in Texas that are just that were built in the 80s are just a crapshoot whether or not it's a fire trap or it's going to fall down one day. Or maybe you had a building developer that cared about human life.
Yeah. And this also, coincides with the tail end of the boomer generation and the beginning of Gen X, and that need for a lot of housing that kind of arises, and people being economically empowered enough to be able to actually buy housing. And so you get, this is where like the concept of the suburbs really kind of explodes. And so you get all these really cheaply made houses, trying to maximize those profit margins as much as they can, and thereby also cutting a lot of corners in what they're doing and what they're producing. Which isn't to say that we should stop building housing, but there needs to be like a quality baseline for the housing we create.
Yeah, it's so a good idea for renters who listen to us, which is probably 90% of the people that listen to us.
It's also me.
Yeah, same. Is this? So
kill your. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, kill your landlord. Yeah. But so it's suggested, generally speaking, that you have a house inspection once every like 5 years, right? Like in order to do reasonable maintenance, in order to keep it alive. Most people don't fucking do that.
Of course.
Yeah. But here's an anecdote. Someone who I know in my family, I won't say who, because I don't want the feds to come kill them for their heroin dealing business. No, they added a kitchen and a bathroom to their house, and didn't have it. They didn't get any permits for it, right? And this was, I think, like 27 years ago. Right. This is a location. This is a home that could very easily be used for renters, right? And probably one day, when they're dead or whatnot, be used for renters again, right? And while I may trust that they were able to build unpermitted bathrooms and kitchens and things like that, the fact that they're able to do that and just never have any of it inspected, and perhaps have it, I don't know, have some kind of horrifying issue with like a water heater or plumbing or black mold or any one of the terrifying things that could happen, adding fucking rooms to your house, and then rent it out to people without having any kind of like reasonable inspection done should fucking freak you out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of do-it-yourself projects, obviously.
Yeah.
But you should not be able to do-it-yourself project and then rent it out to somebody, or sell it to somebody in that regard, which is why I have a huge problem with house flippers.
Yeah, if you ever see your landlord with a hammer, you just walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've not met a single landlord who knows how to do anything that is a trade. I've
No.
never met a single landlord with a trade.
They can all caulk exactly like a quarter of a room and then give up. Like, they can do that. They can all paint over doorknobs.
Yeah, they can. Sometimes they're pretty good at painting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they have to do that once a year in order to not give the security deposit back to their renter.
Yeah.
I had to paint the whole fucking place. It cost me $3,000.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our main topic of the night. Which,
30 minutes in.
And I mean that's actually a pretty good time for us. Normally we've like bullshat about a movie for 40.
Well, especially when buildings get brought up, this is pretty impressive. By the way, every episode of Benzo Rehab Dungeon is a building episode. We can't.
It's true. Yeah.
I mean, two of us are construction workers or tradesmen.
Right. And gay.
Yeah.
not gonna say who's who and who's
things are a little more
where the Venn diagram that would be a funny meme, a Venn diagram of all of us.
it's both of us. It's like if the village people had two construction workers and they were both 69ing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Two construction workers and one cop.
Guess who the cop is? It's the white guy.
Yeah.
I'm also the Indian.
Jesus. Which one though?
I got feathers and a bindi.
Wow. That's so
I
was actually gonna say feather or dot, but you are the racist one actually.
Dot is more racist than bindi.
Yeah, I know.
I'm using the word. You're being racist about it. Okay.
All right. I'm the racist, I guess. Even though you referred to my people as feathers.
And Indian.
Yeah, and Indian. So this is a definition I pulled from Investopedia. And I know that you've got a definition that you would like to give, Danko.
I don't even care anymore.
But I would like to get through this, and then I have an instructional video on what inflation is. So what is inflation by Investopedia? Well, it's by Jason Fernando, reviewed by Michael J. Boyle, and fact-checked by Pete Rathburn. I don't know who any of these people are, but Investopedia has really got its like Wikipedia citations like on lock right now.
We got to Snopes this afterwards.
Inflation is the decline of purchasing power of a given currency over time. A quantitative estimate of the rate at which the decline in purchasing power occurs can be reflected in the increase of an average price level of a basket of selected goods and services in an economy over some period of time. The rise in prices, which is often expressed as a percentage, means that a unit of currency effectively buys less than it did in prior periods. Inflation can be contrasted with deflation, which occurs when the purchasing power of money increases and prices decline. And then I have an instructional video on what inflation is. So John, if you could please click on that. Uh-oh.
Good.
It's weird that it's making you sign in.
Yeah, that's super weird because I'm actually, you know what? I know what I'll do. I will try this.
Yeah, you want to go to a non-incognito window?
Yeah, let's see what happens if I do this.
Why are you in incognito mode?
I don't know.
I'm not in incognito mode, am I?
I don't know. I thought you were. Never mind. Don't
No,
worry
it's
about
just dark.
Yeah.
It's just in dark mode.
John comes straight from watching furry porn to the podcast. Doesn't even bother turning off the browser.
I like the definition that you picked, in the sense that it has the problem that dictionary definitions have versus like encyclopedia.
John, we
ones
can't see what you're watching.
Where?
Yeah. Sorry.
Aha!
Oh,
We'll do everything.
Pause it or something.
there we go.
Where it doesn't actually tell you anything about it at all, minus like money no be good anymore. It'd be worse than before.
Yeah, no, it's a very basic definition, and I figured that would trigger you into wanting to explain it more. Actually,
yeah,
I think you just have to.
Why are we?
In.
Weren't you just playing it before? What's happening here?
Yeah, but he was playing it on a different screen that isn't showing.
Yeah,
up and...
it logged me out of the Benzo Rehab's YouTube, which I thought I definitely had saved on here because, yeah,
that seemed like you do have it saved on there.
Yeah. It's just
all right. Look, I gotta admit to something here.
What?
This isn't a video that really explains inflation. It's a fetish video of Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony being inflated until she pops. I don't know why it has an age restriction on it, because it's not like, it doesn't have anything grotesque really. She just keeps blowing up like a balloon until she gets too fat and then pops. Dorian, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. It's probably good based on what I said.
All right. Well, that hasn't worked out, I guess, and we'll just move along. Again, the video was just Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony being inflated and she pops. So, under the context of my informative video, would you like to explain what inflation actually is, Dorko?
So, I named myself Dorko for this episode. I don't know if anyone could see it. I'm very funny and clever.
Nah, it's cropped out. Sorry. Yeah. Throw a tantrum at it.
So we're all pretty aware that inflation, what it fundamentally means in the dictionary sense, is that that money is worth less in comparison to commodities. But what's generally actually happening with inflation, the way that something like that occurs, is that there is a relationship. Fundamentally, what it means is that there's more money in the market than there are things to buy, or things that are being bought.
Yeah.
Right. So the way that a market tests whether or not something can be bought is whether or not it is being bought. Right. Because these are all based on, everything's trying to balance itself out. And so the way that this system ends up, or this reaction ends up occurring, is that when you end up having a whole lot of money flow into a system, be it because a lot of money is printed, or because a lot of people are given a lot of money through something like a mass wage increase, or something like everyone getting $1,600 or $12,000. But in 1,400 and $600. But anyway, so what ends up happening with that is that suddenly they are able to buy, right? And so it's not just that more money's been pumped into the system, but what ends up occurring after that ends up causing real issues. So it makes sense how putting a lot more dollar bills in the economy causes inflation, because suddenly everything's diluted, right? There are more dollars, and so each one is worth a little bit less because the full market cap it stays the same.
Right. I was going to say a good way to think of it is think of the entire U.S. economy as a pie, right? And if you give out more slices of that pie, you're getting less pie per, which means that you're going to get less full off that pie. You won't inflate yourself as much. Oh, we can finally watch the video.
But
we'll hold off on that for now.
Yeah, please. But the real issue here, apart from, just like your buying power ends up decreasing, which of course, if that's all it were, then simply your buying power would decrease, and then they would adjust the price of goods so that you could buy them in the same amount as before, and everything would end up stabilizing. It would reach a lambda, right? But instead, what ends up generally occurring, at least when it gets sufficiently extreme, is that suddenly everyone has a lot of money in order to spend on goods. And so they need to increase supply in order to reach that, because demand is increased because the amount of money that's available in the system is increased. And so when people end up buying up all this, they ramp up production. They end up ramping up logistics. They ramp up everything that's necessary in order to make it so that you can buy more of the stuff, because that's what leads to more money for them.
Unless.
Well, not even in unless, but if, well, yeah, I mean, I guess it is there's an if in there. So if the money printing stops, right, or if the allowance given to people stops, or if there are job losses, or anything causes this steady increase to stall out, then what ends up occurring is the market necessarily, in the most optimistic sense, production slows down with demand, right? So if everyone's a fucking genius, just a total money genius, and they have a fucking wizard crystal ball and can tell what the future is going to bring, then they slow down production, and then everything ends up kind of evening out. That's not how economies work. So instead, what ends up happening is production ends up outpacing the actual financial ability of everyone around. Which is where things like loans and stuff end up coming in the Federal Reserve, but we won't necessarily get into that. But that then means that suddenly companies are making losses because they're spending so much on production, they're spending so much on all these things, and they need to draw back. And this then ends up affecting the supply of money elsewhere in the system. And essentially it leads to a recession, or if financial institutions are included, and this ends up affecting solvency and things like that, a depression. And yeah, so ultimately that's what ends up really causing all this stuff to cascade, and that's how you end up reaching something closer to hyperinflation. But so that's kind of the trajectory of all these things. Generally, things balance out a little bit more, and so inflation ends up increasing a lot, and then production, things like that balance, and it's always like hurtful and nasty, but it kind of works out a little bit. But that kind of cascading system is one of the reasons, apart from the fact that you can't just remove money from a system entirely, that causes inflation to just increase over time. That's why it's very hard to say, like, hey, you could buy a house for 5 cents in 1805, and now you have to spend $80,000. Well, $800,000. I was thinking of a tiny home, but even though it does sometimes happen, like hyperinflation of like the German mark, the Deutsche Mark or something, which then ends up anyway.
You want to watch the video now?
No.
Okay, good. Let's close that out, John. Sorry.
No, let's watch it. Let's watch it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but,
all right. John put all the effort in.
Yeah.
But my really quick definition, just to sort it out in the end, is just that Inflation is where there's more money in a system than can sufficiently be used to buy commodities.
Yes.
More money, less commodity.
John, go ahead. So, Twilight Sparkle is looking up growth spells.
We'll do everything by the book.
So expand your mind. Ooh, that glowing phallic. It's a her, right? It's a she.
Fucking no.
Don't misgender the pony. Now her abdomen
I'm
is
getting
inflated,
something.
to the point that her legs are being display. She got a thick boot.
So this is kind of like what inflation is like.
Oh no. Oh no.
Her thickness no longer has purchase.
More? No! No!
John's face right now. This is the first time you've seen fetish stuff, John.
There's nothing this extreme. I've got the most awkward erection that I've never been more ashamed of.
Yeah.
You have the most
good.
awkward inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close that window. Go back to the rest of the links.
Click on everything there.
Yeah. Open up a new tab for each of these links.
So
Don't just minimize it, close it. We don't want you coming back to this.
hold your fucking horses.
I've got a link that you need to go to.
Better
there
now?
we go.
Better?
Yeah. Much better, actually. Now that
Okay,
you're
I'm
not
glad.
making us watch that weird inflation stuff anymore.
Oh yeah, it's my fault.
Because you put all the links together.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's true. He does do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Some
Yeah.
Benzo Rehab lore there. John puts all the links together. He does all the stuff.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
he's a pervert.
yeah, I've secretly been the brainchild of the show the entire time, actually,
Yeah, it's true.
including the year that I wasn't here.
Well, now that we've talked about brain children, let's talk about Roth's children.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Federal Reserve a little bit.
Gross.
Which you said you didn't want to get into in your explanation, but I kind of do want to get into it a little bit. So this article is an opinion piece by a guy named Clive Crook, which is an apt name for what he's advocating for. The title of this article it got changed sort of. So it had like that soft change where like when you look this up, it doesn't say the article's name quite as much as it used to. It says something like money is tricky instead of what the title of the article actually is, which is have a little sympathy for the Federal Reserve. And then the subtext there is monetary policy is unavoidably complex, and anyone who says otherwise is not to be trusted. I'm going to immediately say it's otherwise. It's actually not that complex, and a lot of times why it's complex is all these arbitrary rules and methods of handling money that are incredibly financialized for no reason. I mean, you got a disagreeing look on your face, but would you...
I mean, it's not quantum mechanics complex.
It's not quantum mechanics complex, but my
like-
point is that monetary policy a lot of times is rooted heavily in financial schemes of borrowing against the future and other things that we don't actually necessarily need to do to make an economy function.
No, I mean
Yeah.
that's largely
Well,
true. But go on, John.
Well, like as I understand it, the Fed or the reserve or whatever fucking they call themselves. They adjust inflation, trying to encourage and I guess technically restrict gamblers, basically. Or what's the word? Speculators.
But that's a sliver of it. It's
I know it's a sliver of it, but like that doesn't seem right.
I mean the Federal Reserve maintains it essentially, so it sets interest rates mostly indirectly, which ends up affecting something like inflation. It prints money. It preserves like depository institution liquidity. So like whether or not your bank is going to be able to like pay you. It sets reserve requirements, which is one of the ways that we're able to fund much of the government, at least. I mean, it itself is a speculating industry, so I wouldn't even necessarily say that it's there to discourage speculation. It just controls it to some degree. It itself has like so all banks end up having like a 6% reserve requirement or something. So like 6% of the money needs to be held inside of the Federal Reserve, literally or otherwise. And then they're paid back 6% per annum, right? Anyone holding stock in it is paid back that 6%, which, you know, that stock can't be bought or sold or anything like that. So it's kind of different, but it itself, because of the way that it performs speculative maneuvers, which is maybe one of the spooky things about it, but also one of the only reasons that we're able to afford things like, you know, roads or have like a treasury, is that it ends up making, I think in like 2008, it was something like 30 to 35% return on top of that. And so, you know, it's speculating and then producing like a 40% profit. So I don't know, like the Federal Reserve does a huge amount of stuff, and it's all actually like extraordinarily complex.
Well,
but
then why do all of our roads suck?
Because 250 billion still isn't enough to keep our roads up, and because we have people in our government that are refusing to use that money on something that isn't bombs.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like, so yeah, like, because like that sounds great, like fucking 30 or 40% returns or whatever, fucking, but like the roads suck, and I guess the bombs are good.
At least we got the good bombs.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I mean, I'm not even necessarily saying that I think the Federal Reserve in my mind is complicated. And not in the way that I just keep on saying that it's complicated, in the sense that it's not simple, but it's complicated in the sense that it is part of an overarching system that is, of course, extremely unethical and cruel and fucked up and broken. But
right, so that's more what I was getting at, is that
but before we instantiated the Federal Reserve, we had things like, you know, recessions, if not depressions, every 2 to 3 years, and then like a copper boom or an attempted manipulation of a copper boom ended up causing the full collapse of our banking system, which of course the same kind of thing happened in 2008, but it happens with a lot less frequency than it used to before we ended up instantiating something like this. So just the only reason that I'm going off on this whole tirade about it is that you've heard me say a whole lot of like, you know, inflammatory, nasty, resentful things about the financial system, and I stand by all of them. I think the financial system is broken and cruel and fucked. But getting pissed about the Federal Reserve is and doing it in a way that, and I'm not necessarily accusing you of this, but it kind of sets me off when people do. But getting pissed off about the Federal Reserve and then kind of blaming it as the bugbear, and then reducing what it ends up doing, instead of like really looking at some finer details about it and why it's fucked, is like saying, oh my God, fossil fuels are so fucked. Why are the seatbelt companies doing this to us?
Sure. No. I get that point for sure.
Okay.
Mostly what I was alluding to is that a lot of what the Federal Reserve is in support of a system that's corrupt and brutal and callous towards, actual human life. And a lot of what it does is basically just making the money shuffle game happen, so that, the economy works, but also, sustains the system
Yeah.
more or less,
I mean,
right?
I will say from an accelerationist standpoint, like if you want to shut down the auto market, we should get rid of seatbelts. Like that would be that'd be a good way to get rid of cars eventually, is make them as unsafe as possible. But
So regardless of how you feel about the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell is a real piece of work. Um, and this article was written basically in defense of him. And again, yes, the Federal Reserve does important things, but it's also important to criticize the people at the helm of the institution, who are running it in a certain way that is necessarily oppressive towards people.
that is one thing that I'll say, which is one of the insoluble issues about the Federal Reserve, which is one of the critiques that people both informed and uninformed get right, but then it becomes, like I say, kind of insolvable, which is that the Federal Reserve is maintained by appointed individuals, that we don't have a whole lot of information on, who only get appointed once every couple of years and then maintain their office for 14, I think it is. And
something
it's
like
like it's a group that is in orders of magnitude smaller than Congress. Like I think it's less than a dozen people. I forget how many, I think, if I'm remembering right. And so really, like, in the ways that the Supreme Court is unjust and fucked up and stupid with its lifetime appointments, of people that we can see and know all the details about, the Federal Reserve is led by people who are bullshit, as well, and ultimately, not really. If you keep a job for 14 years, you're going to be fine no matter where you go. But
Well,
but
they also
but the
have an
reason for
agenda.
that, right. But and the reason that I say that it's almost insolvable, if not insolvable, is that when they first ended up creating the Federal Reserve, the reason that they did it that way was simply because of the fact that they wanted to make it something of like a non-political institution, but which is the same excuse that they use for the Supreme Court, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is that, when you end up developing like a series of like it literally regional corporations, many of which, especially like the ones in Missouri, or are literally predicated upon some kind of pre-existing politics and like deal making. You have people that are making a lot of these choices of their own self-interest, which
There's no
if
such
you're
thing as an
neoliberal,
apolitical institution.
yeah, if you're a neoliberal, then this is great, because the fact that it ends up bringing in a 40% return, and like it is supposed to be selfish, and so it works selfishly, and like I said, in terms of keeping the economy afloat, usually it works. It fucks up a lot, like anything does, but
Well, and
it's
the reason
great.
it fucks up is because you get somebody like Jerome Powell in charge of it, and their clear agenda item is to enrich the people who are already rich.
Yeah.
And so they navigate and command the ship of the Federal Reserve in such a way that it crushes, the everyday worker of America, and enriches the powerful, who are already richer than God himself. This is what happened in 2008, with the collapse then. Um, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, was it Greenspan back? I think it was Greenspan, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, he's the one advising Obama to not give the money to people directly, in order to make their housing payments, but make the payments to the lenders themselves, and they'll just forgive all the debt. And then why would they? They don't have any reason to do that. They take the money, and then they say to the person who's trying to pay off their mortgage, "Oh, you still owe me." And the person paying their mortgage is like, "What the fuck? You just got like bailed out for all the bad deals that you made for the last 10-20 years, um which have put us all in this situation, and I don't have a job anymore because of all these bad economic deals that you've been making." So there's a lot of reason to criticize the Federal Reserve, which I do understand exists for a reason. The criticism of it is more in how it actually operates versus why it was created, right? So go ahead and go to the next link, John. So go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit.
Nice.
The headline, if you want to go up to the headline real quick, and then I'll read that. So, U.S. Federal Reserve says its goal is to get wages down. That seems like an inflammatory headline, but it's not. Go ahead and go down to the highlighted portion.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So, according to a transcript of the presser published by the Wall Street Journal, Powell blamed Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, blamed this inflation crisis, which is global, not on the proxy war in Ukraine and Western sanctions on Russia, but rather on U.S. workers supposedly making too much money. This is a quote of his. Employers are having difficulties filling job openings and wages are rising at the fastest pace in many years, Powell complained. The Fed's proposed solution, bring down wages. There are a lot more job vacancies than there are unemployed people in the United States as the economy recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic. Powell claimed this discrepancy between job vacancies and unemployment is due to high wages, which discourage workers from taking bad, low-paying jobs with few benefits and therefore give them too much power. This is another quote from him. Wages are running high, the highest they've been in quite some time, the Fed chairman lamented. Go ahead and go down. Another quote of him.
So really quickly before you move on to that, I'm going to say something bad about the Federal Reserve, which is that they're short-sighted by virtue of what's called the dual mandate, on top of just being part of a capitalist system run by capitalists. But the dual mandate is essentially that their job explicitly is to do two things. It is to decrease unemployment and to essentially stabilize prices.
Right.
And so the stabilizing prices thing we've already kind of covered, even though that's complicated and links into the first one. But if your only job is to make sure that everyone has a job, or if that's 50% of your job, then saying everyone's allowed to be a slave could fit in with the mandate.
Well, yeah, and this ties in kind of directly to this next quote from Powell. There's a path by which we should be able to have demand, to have demand moderate in the labor market and have, therefore, vacancies come down without unemployment going up. Because vacancies are at such an extraordinarily high level. There are 1.9 vacancies for every unemployed person. 11.5 million vacancies, 6 million unemployed people. So basically, Powell wants you to work two jobs. Is how that math works out.
Yeah.
I mean, 1.9, almost two jobs for every unemployed person.
You remember, so when Obama was president, which was 3,000 years ago, I think
3,000 years and like 500 gray hairs in my beard ago.
Right. But there was this whole thing that the real neolibs were pretending wasn't real, which was really hard to ignore, which was that despite a lot of these changes around so Obamacare, right? The passing of the ACA, things like that, making mandates on businesses that if someone works full-time there, they have to have health insurance, right? Ended up leading unjustly, but kind of necessarily, because again, we live in a broken capitalist system, to most people just working part-time.
Yep.
Maybe not most people, but most people in my experience, right? Because
and having to work like 2 or 3 part-time jobs in order to get enough hours, right?
Right. Where everyone's working 60 hours instead of 40 because they're now working 2 30-hour jobs. It's a fucking nightmare. It's bad. Or working 4 15-hour jobs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it did allow companies to go ahead and hire more people, ironically, which then ended up leading to his rates for the employment rate was a lot higher at that moment, but only because of the fact that so many more people had jobs. They were just working multiple part-time jobs or one part-time job, right? So in fact, like if you really looked at the amount of money that people were making off of their employment, far lower, like not helping them nearly as much, but technically it was better for employment.
Very, very technically better for employment.
Right. But that's how it showed up. That's how it showed up on these graphs, which is infuriating and kind of a nightmare, but it kind of worked. Anyway, so another Obama nightmare. Everyone looks back on him like he was magical. Well, not everyone.
No, and I think, it's important to point these things out because, we have Biden now, and people are now having.
I forgot we had Biden now. That's so fun.
It's so easy to forget sometimes, actually. Like,
I love that guy,
which is weird.
Well,
I guess it's because our last
at brunch so often.
Yeah, our last president was such a unceasing nightmare of like you were a part of his stream of consciousness shit posts, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now we just have
Trump.
What's that?
Sorry, Trump has affected the way that I speak and think.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
That it keeps me up at night. Like my thinking and communication skills since Trump took over have deflated so nightmarishly.
Would you say they're bad now?
I would say it's
wrong.
Well, many people are saying.
Yeah, many people are saying my brain is shit.
Sad. Like, I'm fucked. But I'm not calling anyone Jack.
I mean, I do sometimes.
Like, I mean, when I'm making fun of Biden, I call people Jack.
Yeah, sure.
But
no, it's important to point out the failings of the Biden administration, which are really, really severe, and ultimately lead to the nightmare of Trump. And now we have basically Obama administration 2.0, where they kind of learned a lesson or two, but not in a way that's gonna make them change, a way that's gonna make them say, "Sorry, we fucked up last time. We won't do it again." Promise, real heart, pinky promise. This is something I've said before on the podcast, I'm sure, but I say in conversation a lot, is that things were not good during the Obama era, and so when people were talking about Biden is going to be a return to the Obama era, you got to understand why that doesn't motivate fucking anybody,
Hey, yeah. Jack. We're going to get back to the days of AIG.
Yeah. we're going to get back to the days of you working for part-time jobs where you've only got none of them are back to back or anything like that. You've got a hour and a half that you have to kind of wait between jobs where you can't do anything fulfilling in your life, and you're just kind of in a stasis mode between going from one job that's not paying you enough to another job that's not paying you enough, and you don't get any health care out of it, but it's okay because you can pay too much money for health care through Obamacare. We got it all locked up nice and neat. Yeah, the Obama era was a nightmare for a lot of people, and
it was bad.
The Trump era, the Trump era was just a mental nightmare on top of the regular nightmare that we were already having.
Yeah. Weird. If I think about it, 2016 until 2020 were some of the best years of my life.
Uh-oh.
I was just always panicked about politics and very poor, but that was true pretty much my entire life. So I don't know. We should think about this. Is this a pro-Trump podcast now? MAGA, guys. MAGA.
Nope.
Make America, make the Fed great again. I know my audience.
So Powell continues, by moderating demand, we could see vacancies come down, and as a result, and they could come down fairly significantly, and I think put supply and demand at least closer together than they are. and that would give us a chance to have lower, to get wages down, and then get inflation down without having to slow the economy and have a recession and have unemployment rise materially. So there's a path to that, he said. That's just a direct quote of him, just brain shitting, fuck the poor, make them work more, don't pay them as much. That'll make everything work out better. Somehow. Doesn't really explain how that actually makes anything better. Except for it'll make the economy go faster or something. I don't know.
You know, well,
he's both
two things.
not wrong, but also wrong.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So in one sense, absolutely he's wrong in the sense that this is just another one of those weird contradictions that Marxists always talk about.
Yeah.
But like we need to make sure that people's buying power is still reasonable by making sure they don't have any money in their wallets. But there's I mean, if you're looking at the general math and reasoning from before, then in order to stop inflation, you do need to cut people off at the knee and make sure that they stay poor so that you can maybe increase their wages slowly over time.
Well,
I mean, the one, but one of the real issues here is that we don't have a command economy, right? Like we don't have the central government deciding like whether or not we're going to make Cool Ranch Doritos today or not, right? Like so we instead have this market economy, which for all of the benefits that capitalists bring up to you all the time is actually a fucking nightmare because it's constantly stabbing itself in the back because it's full of these contradictions again. And so if you had complete control over the economy, right, then like if you had, hear me out. What if you had a like a central planning of some sort, right? Like a communal central planning, right?
Sounds like a load of bureaucracy to me.
Yeah.
And they decided things like wages per job. Like we don't even have to get rid of money entirely. We just have to get rid of capital, right? Like everyone owns the means of production. And so if they're deciding wages, things like that, depending on the type of job that you do, like if you're a ditch digger, you get paid really well because it's hard as shit, that kind of thing. If all these things are considered, and the inflation will still occur, right? But what you would do, because you have central planning involved, because you have total control of the economy, is you would adjust wages to inflation. And inflation will always outpace wages a little bit, at least rhythmically to some degree. But instead but you would have a mild outpacing rather than what we have right now, where I think it's something like, I don't know, if our wages were to, if like real wages, buying power were to stay consistent with what it was like, I don't know, 1950, we'd all be making $25 an hour at minimum wage now.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because I was going to eventually bring up the big lie that's being told here. People like talking about big lies lately, so I'm going to keep repurposing that for other things.
It's the big lie.
The big lie that Pal is giving here is that, wow, wages have increased so fucking much. Well, yeah, man, they should have been increasing for like years and years and years, and they didn't. Yeah. And
instead, we're in this system where things only happen in lurches,
right?
And so it ends up disrupting the whole economy when suddenly it's like, we need a $5 increase in the minimum wage, which is 50% of what it was previously. Oh my God, what are we going to do? When instead it's like, how about you increase the minimum wage by 50 cents every year?
Well, yeah, and isn't that kind of like, once you finally get people to understand that the minimum wage does need to be raised, right? Everybody freaks out because they're like, well, we can't just adjust it to what it should be right away. And that's
Yeah.
basically what they're
It's
saying.
your
is-
mistake, bitch. Welcome
Right.
to hell,
Yeah,
where you
should
pay
have.
for all of your past mistakes.
Yeah, you should have been increasing it gradually over time, but instead you allowed the greedy class of rich elites to keep wages depressed for such a long time now that people are like starving in the streets, and their only recourse is either they kill you or you increase their wages by a substantial amount. And that's on you, bud. Sorry. This is the fucking system that you created and the system you've been in command of, and now you're fucked by it. You know, sometimes you eat the bear, sometimes the bear eat you. Fucking deal with it.
I'm a nerd now, as I always have been. But I'm a different kind of nerd. And so I was doing some number crunching around when I worked at Home Depot. Right. I worked at Home Depot for like 6-7 years. For an
You
immense
were
amount of time.
the head of hardware, if you know what I mean.
It's funny because originally they hired me into hardware. I was the paint guy. I was the cutie little paint guy. But
also the hot dog man.
I was also the hot dog man. Every time that I had a chance to take over something that was not the Christmas trees, because that's a nightmare, or my actual job, I would take it. And so I was often like cooking hot dogs for contractors while they talked to me about how much of a, I'm not going to use the words that they used, Obama was.
Oh no.
It was bad, and I had to feed them anyway. Yeah, so taking a step back, there were every 6 months you would get a review, right? Like it many jobs, and then they
Many
would
such
tell
jobs.
you were, yeah, many such jobs. Sad. And they would always tell you that you're bad at all the things, or at least like you'd be C+ at best at all the things, and they give you 1A because it was like that's probably statistically speaking the best way to like say, hey, we're not going to give you a raise, but like you're doing good enough, don't lose hope.
Yeah.
Right. And so the most I ever made made it one of these reviews. The biggest raise I ever got, I did the math, and it was I think it was like 0.2 or 0.02. So it was like 2%. It was a 2% raise. I think that was the highest I ever got at this job. And that was like a big deal. It was like, you know, fucking 30 cents or something. And even if you did that every year for everyone, you might have like a chance of at least staying close-ish to inflation.
Yeah,
Close-ish.
the cost
like
of living, essentially,
like,
right?
Yeah, you'd still be off by anywhere between like 5 and like 7%. So still, like people would be getting poorer and poorer, but the adjustment would still be it would be so much less painful versus like, you know, federal minimum wage being, I don't even know where it is right now, but it was like it's $6.50 for forever.
$7.25 still, I think.
A nightmare to think that anyone could ever make that amount of money.
Yeah, you can't live off of that.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, and currently we're at a point where I think inflation is like at 8.5%, which everyone's panicked about, and it's like, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
You didn't raise anyone's wages for forever, and then you gave them money, and then you shut down logistics, supply, all of this stuff, and then you decided selectively to increase wages while buying power increased immensely in really expensive parts of the country, like San Francisco and New York, where people are suddenly like making $400,000 just to stay alive. This is going to happen.
Yeah, and so, you know, another good point to make off of all of this is, the government gave people money because they needed money to survive.
Yes, no, and that was a good move.
Yeah,
obviously.
it was a good move.
Like,
honestly, like one of the
Should've been
shittiest
more.
things Biden did was means test.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fucking weird and ironic that Donald Trump gave me more money than Biden gave me during
Yeah.
the global pandemic. And now like that conversation is completely shut down. You are never going to get anything from the government ever again, probably. At least in this lifetime, maybe your great grandchildren, you know, when pandemics become like just a normal part of life because we've fucked the environment so much that everything's so hot that all these bacteria just like have the like perfect conditions to grow all year round and never
Yeah.
like die off from the cold or anything.
Where's
Well,
monkeypox?
well, maybe there won't be any water for them to grow in, though. You know.
Good point.
That's true.
Yeah.
Monkeypox, I heard you bring up. Monkeypox is at the stage where some government, I think, released a document on how to have safe sex during monkeypox. So get ready for that one. I don't know if it'll turn into something worse, but it's being taken seriously enough by government entities that they already have like a draft document of like, all right, we know you're all depressed and you want to bang, but you got to stay safe during monkeypox. So that's a good indicator.
Just to be clear to everyone, in case anyone here is interested, like Mike, mostly, this is for Mike. I'd rather just never have sex again than have to use it with anti-monkeypox protection.
Yeah. I mean, it's very Mormon in that you had to like basically lay a sheet over your partner and cut a hole in it. so I actually understand that sentiment. We need to get back to. By the way, if you guys want to watch a great show, Under the Banner of Heaven, highly recommend. It's about Mormons and it's very accurate.
So two things really quick. What I hear is actually the way that you protect yourself from monkeypox is you have to cut a hole in a monkey and have sex through that.
You have to have sex through the monkey. Helps if you get a thinner monkey, if you know what I mean.
More monkey for the cushion.
Yeah.
No. You want to feel it more, man.
Yeah, you can feel the monkey.
Also, like the thicker the monkey, the less you're. You guys get it later.
That sounds like a you problem.
Yeah.
The less
I mean, when you have limited
partner.
real estate, you got to work with what you got, and you need a tighter space.
The glands of your penis is the important part to stimulate anyway. So, like, I don't know. What are you saying? Oh, is this about someone else coming, or?
About me, baby.
I get it now. I get it. That
actually, this article here says that the federal minimum wage is just $7.25 an hour.
Disgusting, repulsive. Everyone knows about soaking, right?
About what?
Soaking?
No.
Maybe. Soaking?
This is my favorite thing.
Oh, soaking. I thought you said stoking. Yeah.
Stoking.
Soaking is weird.
Yeah. Soaking rules. So for anyone that doesn't know about soaking, which is the only way to not get monkeypox, actually, if you have sex with someone, you can reference this podcast to your doctor after you get monkeypox.
The Benzo Rehab dungeon told me that the longer I spend inside, the less chance I have of getting monkeypox.
Yes, yeah.
And Robert Kelly in the chat real quick says that it was Quebec. CBC is the one that released the guidelines on. Please don't look.
No, don't even look it up. I want to explain it. I want to explain stop it. You're bad producer.
Yeah. But you can't look up porn anymore, John.
That's all. That is a good point, actually. Soaking potentially leads to the most awkward threesome you've ever had, which is saying a lot. But soaking is where you insert yourself as a man. Not everyone listening to this is a man.
As a man.
Where the man inserts himself into the woman, because LDS people only have straight sex. And you stay still. And it's not considered fucking because there's no motion for the ocean. You know what I'm saying? But there's a way to cheat this, which is how it becomes a really awkward threesome, which is where one of your friends, for some reason, I always imagine a woman in a trad dress is standing on the bed next to you, and she kind of jumps in place.
Yep.
So that it's not you thrusting into your little Mormon girlfriend. It's the bed moving and causing you to fuck by the pure contingency of the universe.
It's
so-
amazing to me how sects I want to make that C and T in there very clear.
Yeah.
Sects of Christianity always find some kind of weird loophole to get around.
I mean, it's
wanna
way more
bang.
honest than what the Catholics do, which is
Which
they
is just
fuck one
anal.
another in the ass.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no.
Speaking of anal, go ahead, John.
Oh, well, actually, speaking of anal, when I was in high school, and I went to public school, but sometimes we would have, I don't know, like fucking cultural exchanges with the fucking religious private school kids.
Okay.
They were all fucking like repressed nymphomaniacs obsessed with having anal sex.
You know, the Amish.
I guess God was okay with it.
Yeah.
Kind of.
The Amish aren't actually allowed to nail one another. They have to peg.
Hey. Get it? Because never mind, you get it later. Speaking of anal sex, John, if you could go to the next link.
Nice.
So again, back to the subject of Biden and basically being
boy.
Obama 2.0. Biden, this headline says, Biden vows to give Fed Chair Powell space to fight inflation, which basically means that they're going to defer to Powell's suggestions, one of which is lowering wages. This article, remarkably, because Reuters has fallen off pretty heavily since, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 years ago. They got real libby. Doesn't mention this article doesn't mention that Powell is talking about lowering wages. Basically just gives like an overview of like inflation bad, economy not great, etc.
Didn't they say that in the headline, or did I? Am I inventing things in my head?
I don't know. Go back up to the headline, John. No, just space to fight inflation.
Oh, okay, I think I just decided that space was a dropping in wages.
Oh no, no.
Anyway,
yeah.
It's when you know, sometimes when you have a psychopath boyfriend and he demands that he needs space in order to get all of his inspections done, it's just because of the fact that he wants to suppress wages.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
As a callback to my earlier analogy.
Like I'm imagining Biden as the Joker and Powell as Harley Quinn. Like maybe that's a meme that I should make.
Would it be the other way around? I feel like Powell.
No, because the whole like she was crazier than him and whatnot, and God, you know, God help anyone who dare disrespect his queen. Because
Okay, I guess
Biden as the Joker is like the muscle of the thing, and he lets Harley Quinn do whatever she wants.
I saw it the other way around because, well, you see, I'm an old school Batman fan.
Wow.
I'm not one of you fucking nerds, you know. And so I thought that what was being said.
Could you define what one of you fucking nerds means real quick?
Don't worry about it. I don't want
Oh, okay. So you don't actually have a definition for that. Go ahead.
It's an encyclopedia type definition, so it takes a long time to say.
Yeah, sure, man.
But anyway, so the what I was thinking is that because Harley Quinn is usually like an abused counterpart to Joker, right? He's the mastermind who's you know, convincing Harley to do things like get him ketamine or whatever the fuck they do.
Yeah. I can see it both ways. Maybe this is something I need to tumble
does
around
work
the
both
old
ways.
brain box for a bit.
Because I mean, like wasn't she his doctor?
Yeah.
So like isn't she the statutory rapist? Isn't she the one with the
also true?
It's a heavy accusation you're throwing around, John, and I don't think it's very nice that you said that about Chairman of the Fed Powell,
Yeah. Well,
who probably isn't into kids or anything
Once-
weird, and is totally
I mean,
fine.
to be fair, in order to get through Skull and Bones, you have to fuck Geronimo's skull, and you have to piss inside of a child's corpse. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
at least the
Look up
child.
Geronimo. Look up Geronimo's skull, everyone.
No,
it's
don't
really
look up
cool.
Geronimo's skull, man.
Look it up. Look it up. You got to feel bad.
Geronimo's one of my ancestors, and
Yeah.
I don't want to. I know what you're talking about. I know what you're referring to.
Well, you don't have to look it up again, Michael Deebs.
Yeah, but you're
listener has to
bringing up a
look it
bunch of trauma right now.
Yeah.
You're literally.
Well, I'm going to do a land acknowledgement at the end of the podcast. So
Yeah, what native land are you shit posting on right now?
the land of the Milwaukee, which I can only assume they named for us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Go ahead and go to the next link. So one of the things that's really inflated in cost is oil. And oil is one of those rare circumstances where it's not necessarily that there's too many people buying it and not enough supply. It's that there's too many people buying it and there's not enough supply because oil companies are refusing to supply to meet the demand. And this is actually really beneficial to them because they don't have to spend as much in production cost, and they're reaping massive profits because they've created this artificial demand, essentially. So go ahead and and this is I find it useful a lot of times. I think I've said this before. I find it useful to look at websites like NASDAQ.com and how they're reporting on these kind of things, because these are the money people talking to the money people, and they're like, yeah, so fuck the poor, but anyways, here's this cool business trick that the oil companies are doing to make a shit ton of money without any overhead.
You know, if you kill 5 people, it could cost you less than killing 4.
Exactly. Yeah. So, John, if you could zoom in just a little bit. So the article starts out, over the last couple of weeks, a standoff has been developing between President Joe Biden and shale oil and gas producers in West Texas, as soaring gas prices add pressure to cash-strapped United States residents already feeling the pressure of inflation. The economic strain is reflecting poorly on the Biden administration, which is scrambling to get anyone, be it OPEC or producers in the Permian Basin, to open up taps and ease supply shortages. So far, however, big oil isn't budging. There is a lot of speculation about the many reasons this may be the case. Pundits have pontificated about the political dimensions of the standoff, noting that the right-leaning fossil fuels industry has little incentive to help out in an administration that they see. Scroll down.
Give me a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was very ableist of me to assume that you could keep up with my reading.
Some of us are only semi-literate.
To help out an administration that they see as antithetical and threatening to their livelihoods. This is completely fictional. Biden has approved so many fucking oil permits.
I mean, that's true. That's true. But I'm sure that so many of these fucking people are just like, oh my God, Biden really wants to fuck me to death with that big old stick.
Oh no.
You know,
I think that
they are going to be resistant to helping him out.
Yeah, there's a perception, of course, that Biden is anti-oil market, anti-oil
he's like
industry.
signed off on more like drilling contracts and permits.
Yeah, I mean, like in his like first what was it? It was like first quarter or something. He signed off on like more.
It was
oil
less than that. Yeah, it was really quick.
More oil drilling permits than like Trump did in his last year or something like that. It was ridiculous.
Like we also let people pull permits to not do anything with it because they're making so much money that they can pull a mining permit basically for whatever resource. and then not actually mine it.
Yeah.
But nobody else can mine the resource there because they have the permit for it.
Look, if you have a psychopath boyfriend and he just starts making
we're
a bunch
back
of
to
girlfriends
psychopath.
that he doesn't spend any time with,
Yeah,
he's
that's
in a
very
little
bad. So for his part, President Biden has accused the oil and gas industry of potentially illegal conduct. He'll never do anything about it, even if there was some kind of legal precedent, which I don't think there is. As oil execs get richer off of soaring oil prices, and has called for a federal investigation on the matter. But according to the other sources, the real reason that big oil won't raise production is a matter of simple economics. Keeping the supply tight is just too good for the bottom line. And if it's President Biden who will take that heat for high prices at the pumps, that's just a cherry on top of a very, very lucrative cake. In fact, according to figures from Deloitte LLP oil explorers in the United States, are making more money now than at any other point in the more than decade-long history of the nation's shale revolution. And this may just be the beginning, Bloomberg Markets reported this week. Free cash flow, the key metric watched by investors, will probably increase by 38% next year, presuming oil prices remain elevated. Another thing to bring up in this discussion is that when the war in Ukraine started, and we had this huge gap in like oil availability, right? And mind you, I made a post about this at the time, but America essentially makes as much oil as it needs, but there's nothing. There's no mandate in place that any of these companies have to sell it to the American market. So what they do is they sell it to other markets and they ship it overseas, and then we have to buy it from markets overseas as well. So it's like this really inefficient, horrible nightmare of like, well, I can make more money if I ship it to such and such company or country, and some other country says, like OPEC, for instance, which isn't a country, but it's a collection of countries in the Middle East, more or less.
entity.
They sell their oil to us because we had to buy it at a higher cost because we have shipping costs and logistics and stuff like that that we also have to pay on top of it. They make more profit. Our domestic oil companies make more profit shipping it out. Really inefficient. If this was maybe a nationalized nationalized industry, we could probably be pretty self-sustaining as far as oil is concerned.
I mean, we've always really loved it when other countries nationalized their oil.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Maybe we'll invade ourselves.
Yeah, we should.
We should. Yeah, that'd be actually pretty fun.
Civil War.
Yeah. So in the case of oil and gas prices, it's really just this global market economy where we can't tell any of the domestic producers that they have to sell their oil to the domestic market because that would infringe on their right to make a profit. They would still make a profit even if they sold it to us, but they wouldn't make as much profit, and that's really what the concern is. As much profit.
What would stabilize oil prices better than the Federal Reserve can? Is if we had centralized command of oil prices.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah. Like, is what you were saying. Yeah.
Go ahead and go to the next link, John. So this article just kind of builds off of what I was saying before. Companies are pocketing their fattest profits in more than 70 years, even as they complain about inflation. That headline is important because more profits than they've had in 70 years is a pretty long term. Like, there's been lots of economic downturns. There's been lots of economic upturns in that period of time. So some bullet points here. Inflation is higher than it's been in 30 years, but corporate profits are soaring the most since 1950. And this isn't just like base dollar amount profits. This is profit margins. So how much they're putting into it and how much they're getting in returns. Companies aren't just raising prices enough to cover costs, they're padding their margins on top. The ability to charge more is making some employers more comfortable with paying higher wages, which is what the Fed is really upset about is people making those higher wages. Go ahead and scroll down just a little bit more, John. I think there's something in the body here that I wanted to
In the what?
in the body of the article. For the
Oh my
last several
God.
months, corporate executives have been loudly lamenting the rising cost of doing business due to supply chain disruptions and labor shortages. These are real problems, technically. Indeed, inflation at levels not
One of them
seen
is
since...
at least.
Huh?
Sorry, I was saying one of them is at least.
Yeah. Indeed, inflation at levels not seen since the early 1990s has shown itself to be both larger and more persistent than almost anyone is comfortable with. Roughly 4 out of 5 companies surveyed by the Richmond Federal Reserve reported hiking up prices for consumers to cover at least some of the input costs they were experiencing. But some of those same execs have been a little bit more discreet, apart from their quarterly earnings calls. But those same execs have been a bit more discreet, apart from their quarterly earning calls, about celebrating the record profit margins they've been able to achieve by not only passing costs on to consumers, but by charging even more. So a lot of this inflation problem is actually just companies arbitrarily deciding that since we have the perception of shortage, we can charge more.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the problem with an economy of this sort. I mean, one of the central problems is that it's psychologically oriented, and so you as long as you're able to charge a price for it, you should.
Well, right, which
Right.
kind of ties into my next link, which go ahead and click on it, John. So I had this hunch in the back of my mind when I was thinking about the economy and how scarcity and like abundance works. And so I decided to like look into some stuff, and this is an article from The Hustle, and it's about the scam of buy one get one free offers, right?
Oh yeah, I fall into that a lot, and I know it when it's happening. Sorry, go on.
Right. No.
It sucks. It's bad.
So essentially what happens a lot of time, and I've always kind of like had this hunch in the back of my mind, but this is like a very well researched article that shows how it does happen. Is that so? First off, whenever you see a buy one get one free deal, people of course automatically assume I'm getting a really good deal off of this, even if the price isn't adjusted.
Yeah.
Usually what it is that the company has an overabundance of something, right? And they've bought it at like, let's just throw some numbers on this. The product costs them 20 cents to purchase and stock on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
And so what they do is they say, hey, $1 buy one get one free deal. So they're making profit regardless of whether you walk away with 2 or 1 of those things. And what also happens a lot of times is in a market of abundance is they have lots of things that they need to move through. Essentially, they've only got limited space to store it, and they just kind of like want to just pass it on to the consumer as quickly as possible. But what they'll do is if like the profit margins are a little bit too close, is they'll adjust the cost of the base item so that it costs more than what 2 of them would be, and then they sell it to you as a buy one get one free deal. This led to me seeing one of the funniest little court documents I've ever seen, which is if you want to scroll down just a little bit, John, you'll see the court document.
Really, really quickly. I'm sure you've probably noticed this. Anyone that uses Amazon, which is everyone, admit it.
Yeah.
But has probably noticed that at least as of late, they've been doing more and more of this thing where they tell you how much of a discount you're getting on an item, right? And it's so funny to me because so often I'll look at it and it's like, oh, 26% off. Fascinating. And
Yeah.
but then you'll notice like beneath it, it'll say it costs less from other sellers. Click here. Like it's just like, oh, okay. It's just a lie. Like
Yeah.
you inflated the price so you could cut it down. Okay. Yeah.
So, this class action lawsuit, which was filed against a company, a little company, some of you may have heard of, called My Pillow Inc.
Never heard of it. Are those the guys that do the pillows that are full of pork rinds?
Yep. They do the crunchy peanuts filled pillows.
I've owned 4 of my pillows, by the way, so I know. I'm not
Yeah.
just bullshitting you people.
And
They're
and you
really
own
bad.
them because you have such a love for Mike Lindell and his Project for Freedom.
It had nothing to do with being unable to be an adult and say no to gifts that I found offensive.
Right.
And instead, it was the fact that I love this beautiful
You
coat-addled man.
Well, I mean, really, what it comes down to at the end of the day is it's your pillow. It's my pillow, right?
It is mine. It is mine. Actually, here's the irony. None of them are mine anymore. I don't own any. 0 my pillows.
If you burn those, that's
I mean-
that's like a federal offense of like
Yeah, no.
all those
no.
packing peanuts, like the toxins that they release into the air.
Yeah,
I just tactfully left each one. Like I traveled around and I just left one in one person's house and one in another, so I could share. Like I could spread out the crimes.
You
Yeah, I
should
was
have
gonna
drawn
say, did
anime
you-
waifus on them. But go ahead, John. Sorry.
I was gonna say, did you like give them away like right before the 2-year mark where they start to decompose and release like a neurotoxin?
It's
the
funny
air?
that you say that because it happens way earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
2 years
it's
is so
2 weeks
generous.
in. It's like 2 weeks in. I'm like, so here's the thing is that I would still make fun of them if they were good products. I would just find like other things to make fun of them about, or it'd be even more insane where it's just like, oh, they're full of bees
Right.
or something. But the My Pillow is just such an offensively shitty product. Like,
you made me
so
feel
bad.
you made me feel one of them once, and it was just lumpy and awful.
They're full of packing peanuts. They have to be. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand how they can feel the way that they do. And here's the other thing. I thought it was just my stress. So I have a nerve issue, right? And it gets exacerbated at times. And I thought that it was all stress. And traditionally speaking, stress is a big part of it. But I'm just going to tell you, I stopped sleeping on my pillows, and it happens, I want to say 60% less frequently.
You think Mike Lindell might have spilled a lot of meth all over those pillows?
It was coke. It was just coke. You know.
No, I think he's
a good
on
boy.
meth.
He's a good boy. You think he's on meth?
Yeah, he's
Maybe.
he's a
Maybe.
character.
He is a
Anyways,
character.
this funny class action lawsuit,
This funny class action lawsuit,
which highlights how this economic scam kind of presents itself. So it starts out the My Pillow Inc. buy one get one free promotions were false and deceptive because My Pillow Inc. did not provide one pillow free. Instead, it inflated the regular price of the pillow being purchased as part of the promotion, resulting in the buyer purchasing 2 pillows at or near the combined regular price for 2 pillows.
And that's why I had 4 instead of 2.
Yeah. Stated alternatively, the pillow that was being sold as part of the buy one get one promotion could be purchased for a substantially lower price without inclusion of the free pillow.
I love that.
Defendant attempted to mislead purchasers into buying 2 pillows instead of 1 under the guise that one of the 2 pillows was free when it was not.
Something when I was a kid, I used to try to pull this off all the time. And it actually worked occasionally, but it was very rare. It only worked because children are, I don't know if everyone knows this, but children are idiots.
Right.
Okay, just
We
making sure that
hopefully
sinks in.
do all know that.
But I forget what cartoon it was. I have to assume it happened in multiple cartoons. I figure it was Bugs Bunny or something. But he was sitting with someone and they were splitting up money. And he said, 1 for you, 1 for me, 2 for you, 1, 2 for me, 3 for you, 1, 2, 3 for me, 4 for you, 1, 2, 3, 4 for me. And I thought, that's so fucking funny and clever. And then I realized later on in life, no, that's fucking stupid. No one ever falls for that. And then I realized later in life, everyone falls for that.
Everybody falls
Everyone.
for that shit. I mean, so, you know, not to set any hard rules on how you look at what you're purchasing or anything like that. But you have to assume, kind of essentially, whenever you're in the market and you're buying something, just like reduce the cost by half and then reduce that half by like another 10%, and that's probably what it actually costs the company to get it and put it on the shelf, and they're upcharging you like that much more to buy it from them.
I mean, plus the fact that like the only reason that's possible is because of all the wages that are being stolen from people.
Right. Yeah.
Like if a company is able to survive, it's only because it's stealing.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I mean by the cost
like,
to put it on the shelf is that this includes like the labor involved in getting it to the shelf as well.
Which is the offensive, like the really offensive part of it, right? Which is that, like, if, and I've made my point.
Yeah. So this more or less concludes our piece on inflation. If you have
good night, take medicine.
No, we're not nearly done yet, sir. We got
go on a Hinge date. Go on a Tinder date, even go on a fucking Tinder date. God damn you. Go into their medicine cabinet and take all of their medicine.
One of each, 2 of each.
Oh, no, all of it. All of it. Go 1 for you, 1 for me. 1, 2 for you, 1, 2 for me. And
and then upcharge them 50% if they want it back.
That's how dating works.
Yeah. So if anybody has
boyfriend.
Anybody has any last thoughts about inflation, please say them now or forever hold your peace. This is marriage to inflation.
No, I'm just going to interrupt you later.
All right, cool. So we have some funny things to get into. Besides, like, inflation is just kind of like a fucking clown show to begin with. So is anybody here familiar with Herschel Walker?
Oh yeah, sure.
John, do you know who Herschel Walker is?
It sounds super familiar, but I'm bad with names.
He's a former NFL player who is trying to become a senator in Georgia. This is a guy who, so we're not going to play it, but if you want to look up Herschel Walker gun control, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are on gun control, the statement that he made doesn't make any fucking sense at all. And he's talking about preserving the Second Amendment while explicitly violating the Fourth Amendment.
You are forgetting something more important about him.
No. We're gonna get to the more important thing, I think.
Christian Walker?
Yeah.
Because
so his fail son, who's
His-
a super flamboyant straight guy.
Is he straight? No, he's gay. He's gay.
He's never officially come out as far as I know.
No. He's done these things about how much he hates Gay Pride Month because he doesn't want to tell everyone his identity. Like he says it without saying it. It's really weird. It's very complex. But no, yeah, Christian Walker. If you have any relation to bullshit TikTok or if any of your like your kids, I guess we can say to our listeners now, or anything like that, then they know who Christian Walker is. None of them know.
God save their souls. Yeah.
Like he's the guy you've probably seen him. He's this like pretty light-skinned black kid who loves going to Starbucks and then like raving about how bad liberals are at putting caramel on things.
Right.
And then bitching about gas prices. Like, he's really obnoxious. But yeah, he's actually the famous one, I feel like, now, because most people like sports sports, but Herschel Walker, also a sports icon.
John, go back up a little bit to that italicized portion, because that's what I want to read. Are you done talking about? I'm not saying this in a shitty way.
No, I'm done. I'm done talking about the TikTok boy.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a quote from Herschel Walker on gun control, and again, I'm not proclaiming one way or another on how gun control should be managed, but it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on here. This is incoherent. So here's what he said Thursday morning. Cain killed Abel, and that's a problem that we have. What we need to do is to look into how we can stop those things. You know, you talked about doing a disinformation. What about getting a department that can look at young men, that's looking at women, that's looking at their social media? What about doing that? Looking into things like that, and we can stop that way. Get rid of that, John. But yet they want to just continue to talk about taking away your constitutional rights. And I think that there's more things we need to look into. This has been happening for years. Yeah. And the way we stop it is putting money into the mental health field by putting money into other departments rather than departments that want to take away your rights.
Dude, no, he's right. He's right. You just don't get it, dude.
Yeah, I guess not. Go back to the link that I had originally.
Jesus.
Do you think his brain just melted? Do you think it okay, hold
on.
Well,
so he's a former Heisman Trophy winner, right?
Hold on.
All right, go ahead.
Is his brain melted because of the concussions, or is his brain melted because of his son?
Why not both?
Yeah.
Okay, which one? Like 51-49 type thing.
So 51 concussions, 49 his son.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
all right.
All I'm going to say is that I'm glad I haven't had a kid, and I'm glad that I stopped playing football when I did.
Yeah.
So
so you could just be our R-worded producer instead of an R-worded politician.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't jump the shark on that one.
I mean, Mike and I both did some degree of boxing, which is probably why we're both the way that we are in running a podcast.
Hasn't helped anything.
Yeah.
So just letting everyone know, keep your kids safe.
So yeah, I'm sure that none of our listeners or viewers probably have kids. I mean, like, they're probably
definitely,
right? Yeah. But if they ever did have,
I know personally
that a few of them
I know personally a few of them do have children.
Yeah.
Poor fools.
I've played football, and I've also been in fist fights.
Yeah.
I have never slept for 17 hours with the most painful migraine headache that I've ever experienced in my life from being in a fist fight without a bunch of body armor.
Right. Yeah.
But I've never been hit so hard or felt so much pain.
Well, that's
brain.
Right. Well,
that's an interesting thing about football in general, is that football is like this really practiced, pointed aggression that kind of mimics in a lot of ways like ancient battle formations, right? And so you have this like colossal clash between two forces, and like people pushing behind you, and like not only your force applied, but the force applied from the opposite side and the force applied from behind you.
Right. So yeah, no, exactly that. Like when you get punched in the face, so all three of us have been punched in the face many times.
It sucks.
Because we deserve it. It seems like it sucks. It sucks. Sometimes it can, make your vision blurry and shit. Like if you get hit really bad, you could get a concussion off of that if it's a fucking amazing punch.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. Like these are things, these are possibilities, but it's never gonna fuck you up as bad as someone rushing across a fucking field, flying into the fucking air wearing body armor, slamming into your face while your buddy holds you up against it.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
That's honestly like the description of a
fucked.
jackass stunt at that point. Right?
Yeah. Like your
but-
brain
but-
is mush.
Yeah, we need to get back to Herschel Walker, who's experienced this many times.
Yeah.
So Herschel Walker is one of those conservative black guys who talks about how the real problem in America is all these absentee fathers. John, you need to stay on the headline. I'm sorry. Go back up.
I mean, that's like a given though. So when you're talking about any kind of African American politician on the right, like the first thing they're going to say is absentee fathers. Look at me. I'm successful. Those are the two things they're going to say every single time.
Of course.
Anyway, sorry.
It turns out that Herschel Walker. So this headline reads.
Absentee father.
This headline reads: Herschel Walker admits to having 2 more secret children. The subtext of it reads: the total number of children for Trump's pick for Senate in Georgia now stands at 4. So this guy who's constantly said like the real problem in America is all these absentee fathers, and of course pointed the finger at the black community because he's a race traitor on top of being a class traitor. Turns out that he has 4 illegitimate children, which his claim to this being okay is that, hey, look, I supported them financially. Does it really matter if I'm around as long as they're taken care of like financially?
Pause for just a second. I'm sorry. I have to bring this up at least once every 10 episodes.
Okay.
But journalist writing is the worst writing in the world.
Oh yeah, it's dog
especially
shit.
when they follow journalist rules, because they're trying to be clear with the grammar that they use, and it makes things so much more confusing for someone that has brain damage like all of us, but especially me apparently, because I saw this and I thought that this was some kind of like specialized like just fucking genetic magic or something, where it just happened to be that 4 of Herschel Walker's 2 children were picked by Trump to run for Senate in Georgia. And I was like, how the fuck can that be possible? This is amazing. Because read that sentence. The total number of children for Trump's pick for Senate in Georgia now stands at 4.
Yeah.
And that's journalistically correct writing. It's the correct grammar. And if I know what it's trying to say,
the problem
beforehand,
is
fine.
that,
But
when we write poetry, we learn about economy.
Shut up! Don't you dare!
Shut the fuck up! No, I'm talking now. When we learn about poetry, we learn about the economy of words, right? There's some vagaries that are okay to have when you're writing poetry, but like one thing that is kind of inexcusable now that most of journalism has moved to an online format where you really just kind of have unlimited space, is they still maintain the old newspaper print. Like you have to maintain an economy of words because every letter costs a certain cent per printed letter. And the more concise we make a headline, the more economic it is for us to print this. We don't have that excuse anymore. It's so fucking free to put as many words as you want in a digital space that we don't have to adhere to those rules of word economics anymore.
Yeah, and the fundamental grammatical rules are just a mess anyway with this kind of thing. Whereas like old-timey stuff, like you were saying, due to printing costs and things of the sort, may have said like, excuse me. Oh god! Oh god!
Jesus Christ! On camera and everything. God damn it!
That's what it would have said.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, no. But back in the day, you might have said, "Senator fucks 6 kids to death." Tight, solid, thick.
Yeah.
but nowadays you would probably see it written as something like politician standing for fourth campaign has sexual relations with 4 children of underage descent.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of weird things
really
that happen
example.
with that.
but it's crazy. I hate it so much. Just write like a person. Just write like a person.
Exactly. No, that's I mean the headline itself is fine. Herschel Walker admits to having 2 more secret children. And then really all they had to do in the sub headline is just that makes the total number of secret children 4. It doesn't. I mean, them trying to like shoehorn the Trump thing. He's a Trump pick, and we got to make that like look bad. Like, anybody who has like an inkling one way or another about Trump has already made up their mind. You know.
Well, yeah, but you're not hurting Trump here. You're trying to hurt him because he's running.
Yeah.
So you need to bring up Trump, but the way that you would do it is you would simply say, Trump's pick for Senate now has 4 like secret babies.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right.
But anyways, just generally hilarious. We talk often about how conservatives are and all their culture like war items are kind of projection to some point, right? And Herschel Walker's been one of these guys that's like, the real problem in America is all these absentee fathers, and then it turns out that he's got and notably, you talked about Christian Walker, his son, who's this weirdo little TikTok guy, conservative, maybe gay. I don't know. I've never seen him come out, but maybe he has.
Yeah, look it up, John. Christian Walker gay?
Well, look up Christian Walker absentee fathers, actually. Christian Herschel Walker. Absentee?
Absentee.
What a journey.
So that first link is actually fine. I think I clicked on that before. So skip that. That's just an ad. Go down to there's like a Twitter link or something like that. Or I remember looking at this article while I was looking at all this shit.
Man, that man's sweating. Oh
yeah, he do be sweating. There we go. You're seeing the top of his head. Just go down a little bit more. Yeah. Not the cutest looking guy on Instagram or TikTok.
That man has genetic brain damage. Look at that expression.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You can go ahead and play this, John.
So it's been announced that Nick Cannon...
Yeah, you can feel free to turn it down if you didn't like that.
I was not mentally prepared for that.
Yeah.
Please.
Just turn it down a notch or 2. There we go.
Jesus.
is having his 9th kid, meaning he has 2 women pregnant at the same time. Nick Cannon is everything wrong with men in America. Get home and raise your kids! Oh, so he's too busy banging women to take care of his current kids. He can't control his dingling. He's out hooking up with all these women, multiple women pregnant at the same time. What is this, his 5th, 6th baby mama? Get home and raise your kids and take care of the women you're knocking up. Can you control your thing for 3 seconds? I get it. You want to go bang everyone. Can you just stay home and raise your kids? Oh my gosh! Control your thing!
Anyway,
so it turns out his dad has... Sorry, what?
It's very likely that he's straight.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen.
Anyways, it turns out his dad has a bunch of unclaimed children. Interesting.
Just, like spread all throughout his socks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Come.
All right. We spent enough time on Herschel Walker. We got to move on to a more serious topic.
More serious than Herschel Walker and his sweet ass kid?
Yeah. Why isn't this link loaded? Why are we just looking at a black screen?
I don't know.
John, is this just the
There-
boy? Okay, never
Oh,
mind. We
hell
got
yeah.
it. We've gone from black screen to incredibly white boy. So Julian Assange's extradition to the U.S. was approved by the United Kingdom's government.
Did you forget what UK meant?
No,
Did you forget what UK meant?
look, I got to be honest. I almost said Ukraine.
Newsman syndrome.
I just saw U and K together, and it took me all I had to not say Ukraine.
There are still some Ukrainian flags flying out here. Not as many. I think there's like 2 in the neighborhood, but
Yeah, that's really died off.
it's blowing my brain.
Not next week because I'll be gone next week, but the week after. There's some
God.
things that we should maybe update ourselves on Ukraine.
Yeah.
But anyways, Julian Assange, a guy
He's
who,
only facing like 135 years in prison or something.
well, he's only facing like getting Jeffrey Epstein in jail, I think, is really what we're looking at. So Priti Patel, who is a Indian immigrant to the United Kingdom, who became like a super fuck you, I got mine, sort of immigration officer, nasty, insane human being, has signed an order to extradite WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange to the United States, where he faces espionage charges. The espionage that Julian Assange did was Chelsea Manning leaked government documents to him that it was Chelsea Manning and Snowden. Eric Snowden? Is that his first name? Fuck.
No, I don't feel like that's right, but now I don't remember what it was.
Snowden.
Yeah. The little snowy.
Bronco Snowden. No, I think it's Eric Snowden.
Well, now
anyways.
I feel like it's wrong. Edward Snowden.
Edward Snowden.
Yeah.
I was so close.
Yeah, it's Eric Dorner and Edward.
That's
Edward
not
Snowden,
right
right?
either.
It's not. Oh, okay.
You know what my favorite thing about Dorner is that Snowden doesn't have in common with him is that
Black skin.
Yeah.
He died at the right time.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Like he didn't become some guy that's talking about like, did you know that unplugging the battery on your cell phone is a smart idea if you're a drug dealer?
Yeah. So, little disclaimer here. After the third drink, I can't be trusted to remember anybody's first name. Jesus Christ. Like I said, after the third drink, I can't be trusted to remember anybody's first name unless I'm on a personal level with them.
I mean, you got Edwin Snowdog's name right.
Yeah, Edwin Snowder.
or Erwig Snowdad.
Anyways, so his biggest crime is these government documents got leaked to him, which proved that the U.S. is doing war crimes. Whoa, big shocker! Who would have ever guessed? And then he published the fact that America was doing war crimes. And ever since then, he's been charged with espionage. Well, is it really espionage to hold America to account of the ideals that it professes to believe in? No, of course not. Oh, yeah. It's actually espionage when you say, "Hey, I think you did a war crime, and you should look into doing no war crimes." Does Julian Assange have a checkered past? Of course. Is that what anybody is holding him to a... Sorry, what? Go ahead.
He did that whole poop smearing thing and the driving around on a skateboard.
Yeah, and then there's like some sexual assault allegations that are probably like legitimate. But that's not what the U.S. government is charging him for. What the U.S. government is charging him for is that he did espionage when information was given to him.
Skating is not a crime.
Yeah, skating is not a crime. information was given to him that is definitive proof that America was doing war crimes in the Middle East, and he published that because that is actually kind of what real journalism is. And so we're running into a case of a real journalist did actual real journalism and has now spent the last like 20 years in exile, essentially.
Yep.
Not 20 years, probably more like 15, but it doesn't matter. He's basically been in exile, and now he's being extradited to the U.S., and he's probably going to be killed here.
Yeah.
Do we have any other thoughts besides that?
Well, I want to
he's
know
gonna-
how they're going to get him to write his suicide letter in his own poop on his cell phone on his cell wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my real
Well,
question.
well, the first trick is to make sure that none of the cameras in the area are working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inexplicably, he'll be in a cell where there's no actual surveillance. And go ahead, Dorian.
So it's been like 11 and a half years, something like that. But also, I mean, the really horrible thing about this, independent of what you feel about Assange, which probably should be feeling bad about him, feeling bad for him.
Not a good guy,
but
but accidentally did a good thing.
What? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that feeling bad about this happening? But is that this is going to have a really bad effect on journalism as a whole? Not that there's a lot to save currently, but just the fact that if someone gets 135 years and or kills themselves by proxy through an assassin or whatever's going to happen to them, for listening to sources and publishing what they have to say, that's not going to bode phenomenally well for other people that have controversial sources.
Right. And another thing we can look at is the essential assassination of Shireen Abu Akleh in Israel, right? Or sorry, I should say in Palestine.
There you go.
And
There you go.
you know, the fact is that if you are reporting and you have information that contradicts what Israel says about what they're doing in Palestine, or about what they're doing in Gaza, or about what they're doing in the Jenin refugee camp area, you can be killed and nothing will come of it, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the same sort of thing where if you have definitive proof that America has done war crimes and you publish the evidence of that, you can now face bogus charges of espionage. And espionage is a very serious crime that is incredibly punishable by death, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool that that Foucault is right about this one, where
He gets a win every now and then.
It may have been better to just have to dodge the occasional bullet or live execution instead of people trying to put you in jail to smear the walls and shit all the fucking time because their power is hidden behind layers of bureaucracy and pretending violence isn't real. Take my medicine. Take yours too.
No, stop. Speaking of smearing the walls and shit, we have a link that you provided, and we need to talk about.
Well, I provided both of these, I think. So just gonna say.
I mean, I was gonna do the Julian Assange thing regardless.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true.
I found out at roughly the same time as you, and by the time I was able to get to the phone to put the link in, you had already posted it, and I was like, okay, cool, I was about to do that.
I'm. It's very good to know now that posting the links in the chat is us taking credit for news stories happening.
Yep.
But yeah, this is the beautiful art of Glenn Beck, and I just wanted to spend some time with it and just kind of go through some of them. And they're astounding. I don't know that I have a whole lot of like planned commentary on them, but he has made so many of these paintings, and if we could just kind of like click at random and just really enjoy these, that would be great. Oh yes. Speaking of definitions,
So is this Charlie Chaplin? Is that who I'm looking at here?
it's either Charlie Chaplin or Mr. Bean.
No, it's Charlie Chaplin
with a mustache.
looking at the text there.
Oh, okay.
Who could better personify this than beloved comedian Charlie Chaplin?
It's a painting that looks as if it's been stained, not with piss. I wouldn't necessarily say with piss, but like with armpit sweat.
Yeah, it's a little bit yellow inexplicably.
Yeah, and it says laugh /LAF. I think they're trying to do like a EO or like do it phonetically.
Yeah, the pronunciation of it, right?
And then it colon verb. Yeah, the IPA is it's anyway. And his proportions are really weird. His head's really big. He really kind of does look a little more. I know it's easy to say that Charlie Chaplin looks like Hitler because of his mustache, but he doesn't actually look like Hitler.
He's
like
also
he himself doesn't look like Hitler.
Eyebrows on this side of his face.
But this guy looks like Hitler. He
Right.
looks like Hitler, kind of, just with like fluffy.
John,
hair.
let's go back to other.
Yeah, there's something going on there. That's Mr. Bean. That's definitely Mr.
All right. So the description here. Oh, never mind.
Oh,
I love this bully.
No. Go to any of these pictures. Whatever. It's John's choice.
Okay.
This is John's night.
Let's see here.
Oh God, no, not that one. So this is a depiction of a Native American with a headdress.
Oh, they
What kind of Native American? Dot or feather?
Feather Native American.
It's sold though. This one's sold.
Yeah.
Can we
Called
find one
Stand Tall.
that hasn't been sold yet?
Oh,
Yeah, let's find one that isn't sold. Something that they're still trying to sell. You know. I think the red dots mean that it's been sold. So yeah, that would be a good one.
Okay.
No.
Jesus,
that
this
far
German
left
Jew,
one.
I'm curious about.
yeah, that's what I'm.
Okay. This one's big, 60
All right,
inches.
so this is Jesus with like, I don't know, is that North Koreans around him? No, China. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's
So
Chinese.
the description reads: we often seek Christ in loving and peaceful places, but on doing so, we steer clear of the places he is always found. We look away and avoid because we don't want to see. By not
Wow.
looking, it's possible we can pretend it isn't happening. We can ignore we can no longer ignore. We must look and ask ourselves: we are doing everything we can for our brothers and sisters across the globe.
I can't believe that they kept all of the typos from his chalkboard.
Yeah. He can be found with those tortured in China under Mao's Cultural Revolution, or those suffering today under President Xi Jinping. Are we genuinely looking for him, or simply looking to feel better? When we don't speak, we speak. When we don't stand, we stand. Yeah, that's so profound.
And
I mean, Xi Jinping's China is like probably one of the ideal circumstances Glenn Beck could imagine for government power.
Yeah. Well,
but you know, whatever. It's fine. He's anti-communist, which China isn't. So
there's also there's a guy handing him a grenade, I think, in the picture too. It's kind of amazing.
It's a really bizarre work.
And it definitely doesn't, but does it have a price at the bottom if you scroll down?
$54.
$54,000.
Oh, $54,000. Oh, I thought that was a period. Oh, Jesus Christ.
If it was $54, I would have bought it right now.
Yeah, same.
I would have bought it. That's 60 inches tall. I would have it behind me for every episode for the
Okay,
rest of
so Carly in the chat put something funny in there, based off of one of the last paintings we looked at, which was the Charlie Chaplin laugh thing.
Live, laugh, love.
Yeah, LIVLAFLUV.
But it's a picture of that Charlie Chaplin thing, Liv Tyler and Courtney Love.
I guess, yeah, I don't know.
She spells her name. I don't know.
So
And a
funny.
shotgun.
Don, go back to the gallery and let's find another one.
That Force of
Jew
Nature one is so funny to me.
The Jew one, I really want to look at the Jew one.
Well, you passed over the Jew one so we can look at the last one you want to look at, you fuck.
Yeah, but Jesus is a German Jew. The yellow star and purple triangle meant that he was not only a Jew, but someone who religiously objected and would not declare Hitler as the new savior.
What?
Religiously objected?
I have no idea.
The
If we
grammar
refuse
of-
to look at
this
the
is
worst
our-
in humanity, we
and
will
this is a
miss him
painting he
every
made.
time.
Right? Or is he insinuating that this was a real person?
No. This is a painting.
No,
he
this
did.
is all metaphor.
Yeah,
Everything in Glenn Beck's brain is a metaphor. He's
Well,
the opposite of Deleuze.
Why would you explain
Like,
it,
well,
because he's selling it to fucking
Idiots.
people with brain damage.
he's selling it to people who will pay $24,500 for it.
Yeah, he's selling it to Herschel Walker's son.
Yeah. All right, go back and go to the one that Dorian wanted to
No,
look
the
at.
last sentence. Oh God.
Wait.
Go back.
What's the last sentence? I didn't see it.
The Nazarene Fund, which is freed fed the blah 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 from the Middle East, as well as continues funding for Operation Underground Railroad. The fact that he's collecting this for a group that will eventually end up funding something called Operation Underground Railroad is so weird to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to look up what that is because I'm afraid it's either totally inconsistent with his beliefs and good that the money's going there, or it's some crazy Lincoln Project thing.
It's some crazy Lincoln
It's
Project
definitely
thing,
that,
without a doubt.
All
right.
If it's in fact a good thing, sorry guys. But Force of Nature, that one.
Yeah. Last one we'll look at and then we'll sign off.
It makes me so happy. No,
Force
actually,
of
we need to
Nature.
look at Force of Nature and then Better Days. We have to look at Better Days. But yeah, Force of Nature.
Pictured here is iconic director, actor, screenwriter, and producer Orson Welles, whose first film was Citizen Kane, widely considered to be one of the greatest films ever made, and which he co-wrote, produced, and directed and starred in. A true man of many talents, Welles also worked in radio, famously creating an unforgettable version of H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. Adept at a startling range of talents, Welles is quoted as saying, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Orson Welles. I am an actor, a writer, I am a producer, I am a director, I am a magician. I appear on stage and on radio. Why are there so many of me and so few of you?" Is that really the quote that we need to remember Orson Welles for?
What the fuck?
I mean that sounds. I mean, it's definitely a thing that
he's
we
a
say.
megalomaniac.
But so Orson Welles is if you're a Glenn Beck fan like I am, you will know that Orson Welles is one of his greatest heroes. That Glenn Beck
course.
thinks he's Orson Welles fundamentally, in the sense that Orson Welles comes out. What's that?
It's aspirational.
I don't even know if it's aspiration if you want to look at it optimistically, but I think Glenn Beck really thinks he's this guy to some degree. But I guess maybe fake it till you make it type thing. But Glenn Beck, I'm sure thinks about the whole War of the Worlds thing once every week in order to come when he's having sex with his wife, if he has one, I don't know. Because it's just this a man said a lie and a bunch of people were like, wow, especially with the way that it was kind of artifacted over time. But the main difference between the two of these men, which I love, is that Orson Welles was enough of a fucking brilliant weirdo that he made Citizen Kane when he was 25 years old and then got blackballed and ruined his fucking life and became a drunk doing commercials about peas.
Yeah.
Whereas, which are amazing. If you're one of the rare people that still hasn't seen these, look up the Orson Welles commercials. They're the funniest fucking things in the world.
Yeah, they're amazing.
But the French champagnes, like incredible. But whereas Glenn Beck was a loser until he became an old guy, and then just tried to blow every rich person he saw until someone decided that he was cool, which never actually happened anyway. So totally opposite people. Anyway, but if we can go back to the last page, just to look at one more, the one of the upper left, that one, yeah.
Better days.
Just the art on this one is just wild to me. Like, it looks like these are sketches Otto Dix made. Like, everyone has like face cancer.
I mean, no, don't do Otto Dix like that. These are Oblivion AI generated, Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, AI generated like NPCs.
Also, maybe just Oblivion generated in general. Just hell, the Void produced these.
Sharing warmth and wine as France is liberated from Nazi occupation in 1944. This liberation was accomplished through diplomacy, politics, and the combined effort of the Allied powers, Free French forces, and French resistance. Together, these men are shown finding real home in the simple courage and act of doing the right thing, a proud yet tender celebration of unity and triumph that transcends a military victory. Above all, we see here the truths of human interaction, kindness, warmth, connection, and the beautiful camaraderie between good men. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
What is that what I mean, I guess basically that's what we call diplomacy these days, but I'm pretty sure we didn't call dropping fucking fucking 1 million tons of fucking munitions on a country diplomacy.
No, that was diplomatic negotiations.
Oh, okay.
But the thing I really
that's why Hitler shot himself. We convinced him to.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, hey, bro, do us a solid. It'll be great for your economy. But there's a paradox involved in this image, which is that, so we have the three central figures. For the listener, we have one man who seems to be laughing or his jaw is falling off in the front right quadrant. We have we have one man who is pouring out the wine, which I feel like is
happening
the best.
To that guy's fingers.
Yeah. Ironically, still the best drawn person here, I think.
Yeah.
His face or hand or anything. Like, at least it's there. Hold on, scroll up. But he's passable. I don't give a shit. Like, and then there's the guy on the left who is definitely, he was added probably, and he looks like he's melting, and it's frightening, and his nose is like falling off his face. It's He just saw the Ark of the Covenant, and his hat looks like one of those like Vietnamese rice farmer hats instead of like a World War II helmet. Anyway, the thing that's really remarkable to me is there's a man in the back between the two of them who
looks photoshopped in.
He looks photoshopped in. Yeah. And yet his presence warps the entire world around him somehow.
That's amazing.
So, well, it's because he's what I'm trying to figure out. Eyes open.
What?
It's because he's the only one in the painting that has his eyes open.
Sorta.
Yeah, everybody else's eyes are closed. That's why like you're drawn to. This is the only character that's actually connecting with.
What's happening for me here is that I can't tell if he was drawn first and the people next to him, their faces are fucked up because they were added after and he wanted to still be made visible, or if they were drawn first and his face is so fucked up because they wanted to make him visible.
He was definitely added in later.
But somehow his presence still warps the faces of the others. It's
Right,
the
yeah.
dimensions are that weird.
It's really, really bad.
I love it. I love it. How much is this one? Because I'll buy it. I'm not going to buy it. I don't have 10. Oh,
44,000.
$44,000.
Do they finance? Can I?
Probably.
I hope so for your sake.
Yeah. Can I use what's one of those like weird new financing apps that have popped up a bunch recently where it's like, hey, do you want to buy this couch? Just give us $90 for the rest of your life.
Right.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well,
That's my dream.
This more or less concludes this episode of the Benzo Rehab Dungeon.
Thank God.
Danko, do you have any pitches you would like to give?
Yeah, a few things. So first off, I'm starting a Kickstarter to help fund this this painting. I want to buy it. So yeah, so $44,000.
Stay tuned on that.
I think if everyone gives me $1,000, we can get halfway there.
There we go.
So yeah. But otherwise, if you hop on to Instagram, or apparently it's an actual magazine, but I don't have the details because I'm stupid. But it is, sorry, I have to find it now because I forgot to write it down. But Spectrum Store, Spectrum something. I did an interview for this museum, for this magazine out of Milan called Spectrum, and it's it's a fun little interview. One other person was also interviewed by them, and they kind of wove the two of them together into one interesting thing. We're talking about kind of memes and philosophy, so a lot of the same stuff that you end up saying, but it focuses a little bit more on kind of the stuff that most people would want to ask about this, instead of getting bogged down in any weird niche stuff. So if that's your thing, check it out. I will be posting on my Instagram about that. I think it's Spectrum Store though, on Instagram otherwise. But yeah, the interviewer was also very fun. I enjoyed him. Yes, it is Spectrum Store. It's Spectrum Store, as well as Spectrum_graffiti shop. Yeah, so check them out again, out of Milan. Otherwise, Trincata podcast, we've had some delays due to some people not being able to record, but we're recording our first episode next week. And again, we'll be talking about As I Lay Dying. There will be 3 of us. It's going to be a little bit longer of an episode than the ones in the future will be, so it'll be a fun special thing. Probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
A little bit of a kickoff sesh.
Exactly. Talking about one of my favorite books of all time. So that'll be a lot of fun. And otherwise, anything else doesn't matter right now.
Wonderful. All right. Well, as always, the Benzo Rehab Dungeon is and always will be a free broadcast. However, if you would like to support the production of this podcast, please go to patreon.com/Benzo Rehab Dungeon and donate as little or as much as you would like. With that being said, as always, we love you. Please take your medicine. Dramatic pause, Jesus.
Hey, could you take mine too?
Ooh. A little bit more conversational.
Make sure to save some for your friends.
My what?
Wonderful.
Yeah. Is that what I say? I don't remember.
I think that's what I say. All right. Giving it a second to clear this out, and then